going to introduce you to, which is Mel. And Mel is, just finding the bio, taking 1 second. With 14 years of experience in web, video, animation, as well as new technologies, Mel has been told she, quote, knows enough about everything to be dangerous. Sounds like a good thing. She currently is the lead UX designer at Surround Insurance. Her recent work includes modernizing the consumer insurance experience and the design for a responsible communication style guide, a guide for talking about our users and audience in a way that they find inclusive and understanding, published by the intersectional feminist publication, The Recompiler. And Mel's talk today is what's in a name. So please help me welcome Mel.
Yay! Woo! I'm going to share my screen and talk at the same time, maybe. Let's see. So yes, I'm Mel Rainsberger. I work at Surround Insurance, which is an insurance startup in Boston that maybe you've heard of, probably not. So what we are is property and casualty insurance. So if you were really hopeful that we were going to fix health insurance, unfortunately we're not. We're things and stuff like cars and homes. I've set a timer so that I stay pretty good on this, by the way, and it's going to go off a little early so that I'm extra good. And so what I'm going to be talking about is empathetic onboarding, and specifically about using users and customers, we call them prospects, real name. I gave a version of this talk at the Venture Cafe in Providence, but it was mostly a tech event. So I'm really excited to have other designers see this small version of the presentation and then see if it's clear to you and if it's an exciting topic. So that's just sort of the feedback I'm looking for. You can give me other feedback too. So I work for Surround Insurance. We make customizable packs of insurance for modern life. That is like our tagline. And it's going to be exciting, I promise, even though it's insurance. So I, at my workplace, am the old millennial. I was born in '82. I am like kind of our demographic. I don't own a car. I rent my apartment. I have a roommate. I freelanced for a ton of years. I have a lot of cats. And so that's my secret sauce to getting into the mindset of our customers, who are typically people getting out of college or in those transitional years between 20 and like 30. And so it's typically when you hear millennial, people are like, oh, those 17-year-olds. And it's not 17-year-olds anymore. It's like way older people these days. But it's very cool to like have this product that would have really helped me in my life when I was younger and get to experience a lot of empathy for that person. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and you don't have to answer this because then the chat will blow up and I'll get confused, but think about this. Have you ever been called the wrong name? Have you ever been to a party, seen an acquaintance, got an email, done a customer service experience where you were like, that's not my name? I specifically get called the wrong name all the time. I've been called like Melanie and Melody and Melissa and Marissa. And it's really noticeable that that's not my name, especially when half the time I put in my bios, I'm just Mel, to like cut down on the confusion. So that's sort of where things lead with me. Oh, this was it. This was the slide I meant to show for that, and I just kept talking. So yeah, there's like this error of, hey, that's not me. Like, can you just use my real name? And it's very frustrating when the first time a customer works with you, they've been called the wrong name. So in our company, we have to use driver's licenses to look up driver's records so that we can give them this kind of driving insurance I won't go into. And so that means we have to look at legal documents and we have to look at and use them in our system in various ways. But a lot of times that might not be the name people want to be called. And unfortunately, if you only use that data, you're never going to know that they didn't want that name. And there's a lot of reasons people don't use their legal first name. They go by a nickname, they go by middle names, they go by religious or cultural names, and or they have a name from another culture and they shorten it for American audiences. They can have married names, or they can have transitional and transgender names that they're in the midst of changing but yet aren't reflected on their documents. And some of this is very specifically going to be about the transgender experience because that's one of the bigger pain points when you're changing your name. I'm not transgender, but I was lucky to have a few friends that are transgender. They led me to find other resources, organizations, research, etc. that was really helpful in this. So I want to say thank you to those friends that answered my questions and helped build this research and our customer experience. But I did find some cool research that, I'm going to be way over time, but that's okay. I can speed through this. Basically that a lot of people, big data point, a lot more people than you think probably change their name in some way over the course of their life. That it's probably around 10% of the population might change their name in some way. And so that equals millions of people that aren't being adequately served by the modern customer experience, where it can be really hard to change your name in these systems that have all these legal things behind them. And our users don't have traditional lives. They're not married and they're not owning 2.5 kids and adopting cars. You know, they have these odd lives that we need to make sure that we're accounting for. And they're not odd because it's just the world has changed and become more inclusive. So I was able, like I said, I made this slide, and if anybody wants to ask me, I will share these resources. That's why I made this. You can screenshot it. But I found a bunch of really great resources. I found some Facebook groups that I was already in that had people that had different views of themselves, or they'd changed their names, and they were willing to let me test and survey them. So they were very, very helpful. And the goal was to meet customers and users where they were in their life and help them be themselves and build our systems for those events that they're already having. So we ended up doing a test of different fields, which is what this GIF is, of different ways to say, what do you want us to call you on the phone, in emails, and we can even, to a certain extent, surface those on business and professional documents so that their legal name doesn't have to float out in the world if they don't want it to. They can go by the name they call themselves. And so that's what this was about. I'm really excited about putting that exact person and not just a persona into the customer experience and saying, this is a person that's going to have a very specific issue, but it's going to serve a lot more people down the line. And that affirmation of who they are will build a better customer experience over the long haul, that we can just keep re-emphasizing the empathy in our system instead of treating them like a number, which is traditional insurance. Yay. And that was it.
Thank you, Mel. You were great on time, so no worries. What questions do you have for Mel? If you want to put them in the chat, I would love to hear them.
I also put my clock for 4.5 minutes because I didn't want to
All good. I'm curious, as people are typing this in, I will start with your first question. So is this something you've been able to implement so far, or is this something that
right now? So this is in our MVP 1. This is like awesome. An actual feature in MVP 1, and we talked about it a lot because there's things. So we offer, so the initial first pack, just so everybody understands because it's complicated, it's non-owned auto, which means you don't own a car but you drive, renter's insurance, and professional liability for freelancers. So there's a lot of questions like, if you freelance at a company that wants a certificate of insurance, are we going to surface a name they don't want people to see? And there's a lot more reasons I found. Like, I found a startling number of men that change their name because of domestic abuse. There are reasons that people go by different names and want to like have two different personas. And so like, how do you make sure that they're protected? Because especially with transgender people, if they go into a workplace and their name is Steve and their paperwork says Stephanie, that can create a really weird dynamic real fast. And it was a contract job. They didn't need that hassle.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. We have a couple questions coming in. Adrian, do you want to ask your question? Adrian, are you there? Okay, no worries. I'll ask it on your behalf. Sure. Was there any pushback for the simple yet impactful feature?
So the initial email I sent was like 1,200 words, so I think I scared my bosses. But I was also suggesting a very small thing, which was that we should be able to ask, what do they want to be called, and make that the main feature of the experience as opposed to their legal first name. So they were pretty on board, and it just got complicated with the professional documents. And then we realized that this is the solution, by the way. People have doing business as names. If your doing business as name is like some normal ass sounding name, sorry to swear, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. It's not even like you have to file, like you don't have to set up like a corporation or anything to do business as another name. So like it really was quite simple to be able to make sure they could always use that name on paperwork. Like that kind of paperwork that other people might see.
Yeah. One more question we'll do. Danielle has a question. Danielle, do you want to unmute? Are you able to? Any crackers in your mouth?
I don't have crackers in my mouth. Love the talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you kind of answered my question a little bit, but I was just wondering if there were any groups of people who appreciated this kind of name accommodation that you were surprised by.
Like I said, finding out that this was like a domestic abuse issue was really nice, that we were helping somebody else along the process, that they could be going by a different name, either like legally they changed their name, but they still go by the name that everybody knew them as, or vice versa. And that, like, I heard stories of men, which just seem, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, but it is surprising. And then that how different it is from state to state to change your names. Right now we're only in Massachusetts, and one of my Massachusetts friends that's transgender told me that you have to go up in front of a judge, at least at the time they went, and like explain why this is a thing you're gonna do. And it's very demeaning when like married people can just go to a courthouse and change their name. Like to have to like be judged that your name is good enough is like so traumatic. And I was like, yeah, I don't want you to have to do that over the phone too.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you again, Mel, for that great talk.
This was great.
All right, your turn to celebrate. Everyone else, it is your time to